Welcome once again to another installment of our First Step podcast, where we try inspiring the individual who is on that mission to achieve greatness in their lives by getting the inside scoop from people who have done or who have cut that trail for others to follow. With us today, we have a very good friend of mine. Started off as a client and moved into the realm of friend, colleague, advisor. He is a playwright, actor, entrepreneur, father. He is the founder of the non-profit organization Stephen Edwards Productions. I guess that would give away what we're dealing with. He also has started the online platform Theatre for Tots to Teens. Right? And he has also produced the award-winning, internationally acclaimed, award-winning Toko Tim Meets the Turtles animation feature that has gathered him a lot of international notoriety. I guess he'll give us a little more insight on that, right? But again, we have with us today at First Step, my brother Stephen Edwards. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, bro, thanks so much for having me, man. I really, really appreciate this. And I want to say how very proud I am of you, boy, to take this step. It's a time where, everybody kind of have to reinvent themselves. Everybody have to do something a little different. And I really, really admire, no pun intended, in taking this first step, It's really, really good, man. So I really, I'm glad to be here.
Well, definitely. And, you fit in the profile perfectly, for a fellow who came from the fire, through the fire. You could give all the accounts of what you need to do, what you probably should avoid, and all of that. But Stephen, I want to start first by giving the listener a little history on what took you to theater, starting off in IT, from what I understand.
Yeah, well, yes, my background really in school, I did physics, maths, and accounts. So, everybody used to joke and say, what happened? You want to be a businessman? But what really happened was that, I was kind of good at both sides. So I was very good in science as well as very good in accounting. And I'm very good in literature too. At the time, I didn't do literature at a 9 subject. So I was always that kind of, and beyond good, I'm talking about like in the first 3, which was kind of weird because you never really found that, a science student might be debating stuff in literature and that kind of stuff, or he would be, doing so well in accounting and maths. But, I just glad that God blessed me that way. Yes, so my background really and truly, after I left school, I know my father wanted me to go to university, boy, and it was rough growing up, boy. Rough to the point where, I would study all night and I would have no food, boy. And, and I'd tell anybody when you're talking about working hungry and thing, I can understand that, because cold water is one of the most bitter things that you will ever taste when you're hungry. Cold water just fall long in your stomach, bang, when you're hungry. And it's not easy. It's not easy.
Wow.
And I just couldn't handle it. But I couldn't go through. I didn't think of going to university, and going through all of that for 4 more years. I just couldn't make it. Now, even when I finished A levels, I had enough. Thing for points to go to university, but I just didn't at the time because I said, I can't go through this. I want to try and work. But what really kind of helped me go to business was that there was a young man in school that used to come dead last way. If it's 36 children in his class, you'd have come 35th. And everybody, when it was summer vacation, would go to that young man and ask him to ask his father for a summer job. And I say, something really wrong here. I say, if this man coming last and all of us coming first, what the hell? You know what I mean? Why doing in school? Because if at the end of the day, I had to go and ask he for a job and he coming last, and I went to Hillview College. It was a prestigious kind of school, you understand? And Hillview, when they give you a John D form, that's their way of telling you you're well done, you know what I mean? That's the kind of, my son going there now, and my son have 8 ones. And he was like one of the underachievers in the graduation. That's to tell you, how they take academics so,
Seriously, right?
It's when I realized everybody asking him for a job, I said, well, no, then that can't be the right way. And then I started to pursue business, and I had, had some successes. I had some failures because in the earlies it was rough. I didn't have no computer, and my first business was a tax business. Right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't have no computer. So when I had to do tax and thing, I had to write down the figures and thing and go and get type here. And it wasn't easy. You know what I mean? Because I was working with calculator and them kind of thing and then putting it onto Word. So I know Excel and it was, it was thing. But you just realize that, everything that happened to you in life, God does use it to bring it to your destination. So now, even when I have to do accounts and that kind of stuff, I could always tell you exactly how my business running because my accounts is always running in my head, and I can file my organization taxes and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you really don't know where you're going. And then I had an arcade, so it was Wolfpack Entertainment, and they broke into that. And that they steal all the equipment and that kind of stuff, and that came and bust. And then I was able to analyze, So anytime I see anybody with an internet cafe, right, depending on the area that in, I know that business been and bust because you have a very small time to get people in, unless you're doing additional services. Arcades and that kind of stuff, the way there's operators, you have these 3 hours of business for the day. Because it's only then school children coming in, and then you'll probably have an hour and a half of work people, but then that's it, and so I learned a lot about, having business for seasons and, how to have additional business and that kind of stuff. And then I had a business when I realized how hard it was for people to get computers. Right. I had a company that used to do e-waste. So I would get computers because I was always building computers. Even in my job, I would build computers and that kind of stuff and fix them up. So I'd fix up old computers and sell them. And I would sell them like for $1,200. I was the first person to do that. Had laptops selling for $1,500, and that was unheard of. Not like now, now that kind of business, as time evolved, it don't make any sense because, the price of a laptop now, right? When instead of repairing it, you just buy a new one.
Buy a new one.
Yeah, but in those times, it was very, very expensive, And so I went from business to business. I was working at the time as well. I started at TSTT. Well, I've always been jumping jobs, and I would never understand why. Because I've you name it, I've done it all. I've worked KFC, I've worked, TSCT. I've been a policeman. I've been patrician police. All these kind of different things. But my mother would say, "Well, why you can't stay on a job?" But the thing about it is that at that time, there was no such thing as entrepreneurship and these kind of things that they hear now. You understand what I mean? But I am just a built entrepreneur. If you want to see all this spirit come out of me, ask me to work at 8 to 4. I always tell my wife, say, babe, I love you, and I'll do anything for you, but I can't work at 8 to 4. You know what I mean? And
so, I just want to get an idea. So having this what we might say, this analytical mind in terms of maths, physics, accounting, to then what one might call a 180-degree turnabout to get into the arts and be so effective in it. Because as you said, you didn't even do literature in school. So what would have contributed to that transformation?
Now, when I was younger, we had Gael and we had cultural sprang along. And I always used to be mimicking cultural sprang along from my mother. Right. And she would always, get a kick out of it. And, I used to do it over and over. And I remember one day, my mother said, Stephen, look, sprang along. And, I was always accustomed to him speaking broken. And he did this interview where he was speaking as Dennis Hall, and he was so articulate and he was so, but I was shocked. I just couldn't believe it because I swear that's how the man was talk all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And I was like, so wait, there's an act. I say, wow, I want to be able to do that. And Super Blue, at that time was big. And my father knew a lot of Calypsonians, and I don't know if he can even remember this, but he came by us at night and, and he shook my hand and I was like, wow,
that's Super Blue?
Yeah, Super Blue. Yeah, Super Blue. Yeah, and as years after, now we perform in a couple of shows together, and he couldn't make the connection, Most people don't, because I don't really tell people that I'm a father who does, but the point I'm trying to make is that it was always there, The first time I went on a date, I went on a date to a play. And I tell my wife, you want me to come to a play? I hate them things. It was Julius Caesar. It was at Hillview College. And I really didn't care to go to the play. I cared to go and see her.
How about the girl?
Yeah. And I used to carry my mother to all these plays. At that time, the late Raymond Chukong used to have plays. And they used to have this play called Boing Boing, right? And then I would go to this place and me and my mother would have, she would laugh and I would kind of repeat the jokes and that kind of stuff. But I went one, I went twice, I went 3 times. And even though it wasn't Boing, all the plays, the plot was basically the same, man, woman, and then I started to get fed up. And I remember, I still have the picture, so I could and the picture has a date. I remember my sister and my mother went to a play and I told them, I say, listen, you see, this is the last play that I will go to. I said, the next play that I go to will be mine. And I remembered how I felt because I was like, I could write something better than this. And then I did, boy. I started really seriously looking to pursue it. At the time I was working TSTT and I entered a competition and I won significantly, boy. But I asked God, I said, God, if it is, because I knew I was coming to that certain point in my life where I was either going to, pursue this computer thing or I'm going to go into theater. And I said, God, if I have to do theater for you, I say I have to win significantly tonight. And Aaron, the difference between 3rd, 4th, and 5th must be about 5 points apart. The difference between 2nd and 1st was 22 points. And if I didn't, if I didn't hear any clearer, that was it. And you know what I did? I went into business. I went into business. I went into computers because I said, there's no way. I say, well, I'll do good in business first. And then, I will then go into theater. And then the business come on bust. And when I say bust terribly. And this is from me coming from a place like TSTT, where always, and in them days, it's not like now, when you're working TSTT, you had a really good job, Yeah,
TSTT was the spot.
Yeah, TSTT was king. So
you don't leave there.
You don't leave them place. And I just knew that, so I said, at the time I was I was always very innovative. So, like for instance, there were these computer speakers and people were watching video, right? And I noticed that when I watched my video on my computer, you know what I mean, it would sound so much better. So, you know, I started taking RCA jacks and converting the digital onto RCA and start selling them. So that time it had video clubs. And I would buy them wholesale and I would sell them now to video clubs. Now, video clubs wouldn't normally use that, right? But they were cheap. They were computer speakers and they gave you a really, really nice sound. So I started doing that and that started picking up well. You know, I mean, I had customers like Mike's Electronics. I used to sell everywhere. And that was always the thing, you know, things would start to take off. And I say, look, I live in TSCT because I always felt that, you know, I mean, the business would have been growing. And then that business come and bust because I did that and I did the refurbished computers at the same time, boy. And there was a contract to get those computers and somebody ended up getting the contract before me. And I was like, God, how you could let this happen? You know, I mean, you know, I needed those computers. You know, that was, you know, what I was going to sell for Christmas. And Aaron, as we talking here, just like how we talking, God says, Steve, if it is I allow you to succeed in our business, you will never do the theater for me.
Wow.
I was in tears and I was crying. And I say, okay, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And that very next week, I was performing in Queen's Hall with the same play that I did for TSCT because somebody had asked me to do it. And I realized that, you know, yeah, this really is my calling. And, you know, I mean, I would follow it. And sometimes, you know, I mean, like when I tell people, you know, you just have to start. Don't always expect that your start will be easy, you know, because at the start, when I decide, all right, this is what I'm going to do, I'm really going to pursue this. I was like, all right, you know, so God will put everything in place. But no, you just have to have that proven. Is this what you really want? And so for 6 months, I would have casting calls and nobody knew who Steve Medwards was. Who's that? You know what I mean? And even up to today is just this kind of weird. It's like, if you know me, you know me, but if you don't, you don't. You know what I mean? It's still not a mainstream name. So, you know, and for 6 months, Aaron, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would go into Hillview College because the principal, I mean, up to today, that's where we hold rehearsals when I'm doing theater. And I'm very grateful to them. Yeah, it was me and my sister-in-law alone, right? And we would be there for 3 hours and she would be on time. And, you know, if the days that she does come late, you know, it's 2 minutes late and she'll be like, you know, Steve, I'll be a little late today. And it's like she and I sit down in that whole hall empty. And the security, without fail, will come and say, good boy. Like, nobody coming today. I was like, thanks, Basson. You know, I appreciate that. Yeah, like if you didn't say it, I wouldn't have seen. You know, and that happened for 6 months. Nobody, when I say nobody, it was like nobody. And I was taking money and putting out ads and all that kind of stuff, and nothing happened. Then some persons who had a church play, they had come and advertised the play at the church. And then I went and I went to the play and I spoke to the director and tell him, listen, I have this play I want to produce, right? Now, this play you're talking about is called For Better or For Worse.
This is the same play that you won the competition with? Or this is something new?
Nah, this is something. Okay. So coming back, let me go back a little bit in the timeline. For Better and For Worse was born when my wife and I was going through a really, really rough time, because I went from TSCT, we always had money, we always had, you know, things, to having nothing, the business bust. And, you know what I mean, and she telling me certain things and I know how I feeling. And, you know, one of the worst things to feel like in her life is a failure. And it was like, you know what I mean, she has, listen, this not working out, you had to go and get a job, but I know I had this play in my heart. And I said, listen, all right, I'll go and get a job. And I used to go in the airport and pretend I had a job, and I used to sit down in Royal Castle and write. And I write in on this play. Until now. I'm telling you, God's honest truth. I tell you now, so reaching the point now, well, all right, this job that you're working on is supposed to pay. So,
well, that's what I was now about to ask. Very money after the first month, at the end of the month, because expect some money coming.
So I reached to the point now where I have no money, you know, and I had to tell her, I was like, listen, I didn't have a job. This is what I was doing. And I don't know for some reason why she didn't file for divorce then, or whatever the case might be. You know, but this is what I had. I had a play, and I knew this play was good, you know. And so when we casting now, you know, I had my first cast, and it's a lot of calamity because you have a lot of people who now, they don't know who you are. You have all these insecurities, and you feel, and you're calling people who are in the industry, and they won't help you. Right, and I mean that's why I try as best. Anybody who asks me any questions, whoever, I would help them. You understand? Because I know what it is to be in a position where you have a dream, you have something that you want to do. You know what I mean? And I mean, no disrespect to anybody, but there was a director who, when I told him what I wanted to do, he said, "Nah, nobody could act and direct in the same play. Only mad people could do." But he was doing it. So it was like, you know, I mean, I could do it, but you can't. And you know, so
I just want to find out, in terms of the play and reaching out to the cast, you would have, I'm assuming you want to, it's business as well, and you having a business background, you would know the importance of, I guess, marketing, and how important the certain individuals involved in your production would be to, I guess, to join that crowd. So you went
right. That's it. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know any. All I knew is that I had a good product, and I mean, I didn't have a name. So I started going. I mean, I went on Alison Hennessy. God bless her soul. You know, I just hit the ground as though I would hit any other type of business. I just hit the ground and start going on these different interviews and that kind of stuff. And I could talk. You know what I mean? I did train in broadcasting before. So, I mean, I know how to conduct myself during an interview and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's what I tell you. It's like all these experiences and all these things that happened to you in your life before. You know, I mean, God has used that now to kind of solidify you. So those hardships that you have before, that is your testing ground, you know. And so, so we precisely. I went to the director now and tell him, well, you know, I want to do this play and that kind of stuff. So he canceled his fee because it was poorly attended. And I started doing this thing. Now, you have to remember, I have no money yet. I have no money to do this. So I am, again, naivety. I just thinking that the gate proceeds will help and pay. So I know, well, I have to sell these tickets. So, you know what I mean, at the time, I had already, we used to work in the call center and that kind of stuff. So I'm going out there and I'm selling tickets, you know what I mean, to the show. And the show came, you know what I mean? We did the rehearsals. I mean, I didn't know lights would have been so expensive. Sound had to be, you know, and this show was in City Hall at the time. But the show was well attended enough that persons came out and I was able to pay my cast, you know. So I thank God for that, you know what I mean? And then I did it again, you know what I mean? Because again, I remember getting up crying in the night because, you know, God says, Stephen, this is what I have created you for, because I remember the impact the play would have had on people. And, you know what I mean? People were like, you know, I didn't know this play would have been so good. And, you know, I got certain instructions. And I mean, I'll talk to you a little bit about that later on in the interview. But I called UTT and I used their place in O'Mara and I got the venue donated.
Wow.
And that venue could take 1,000 people area. For that weekend, probably 40 people passed through. and I sell my
wow.
car
And for the entire weekend.
Entire weekend, 40
Wow.
people. And I did more advertising and I did more thing. And I sold my car to do the show. My wife merely passed out. You understand? Because now we have no car, right? We have nothing to show for it. And
Right.
what's going to stop? No, at this point in time, you had to tell yourself, well, you had to stop because,
Right.
things going crazy now. And so,
Yeah, and I I think a lot of times people, we tend to, you get a burning desire and you're going gung ho, you're going 100% with this. And then you have, like you had your family to juggle, you had your wife who have her needs as well.
Yeah.
And you go in what might seem at that time to be a reckless thing, it just all chips in. How do you pull yourself now? I guess you will lead into that, but how would you pull yourself through that low and start building? Is it that as you go along, you start learning, or you start reinventing the system?
Well, right. So the thing is, when that happened, I was just going and say, well, all right, okay, I'll go in and just have another show again. I don't know how thing, but I can't give up now. At this point in time, I'm thinking that, it will just have to work out. And she said, like, no, you can't be doing the same thing over and over. And, this not making sense. And so I sat down and I had to restructure what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So I was always into youth empowerment and that kind of stuff. Right. And, I was thinking of how do I get a cast now? Because I fired the whole of the last cast, right? It was just like, they didn't understand what was happening. And and I'm a person, even when because I was always doing plays in church, right? Even when I was doing the plays in church, you had to come to practice on time, you had to give it 100, because if you're doing this for God, you see, and this is what I just tell people, you see, when people donating the time or they're saying, well, are doing things in church, right? Do it as if you're doing it unto God, because that is where I get that sense of professionalism from, right? I will go toe to toe with anybody in this world when it comes to entertainment. And I'll say that without apology, right? But because of that work ethic that I have, because of that desire for excellence, right? But you also have to be wise. So at that point in time now, I had to kind of readjust and say, well, okay, because the EU, the EU had a grant. If it is you were doing certain things, right, you could have done it. So I restructured and I use theater now to kind of teach young people and that kind of stuff. And what had happened was that the theater group that I had before, I realized how it was bringing the youths together, right? And then my wife would come and get pregnant. And when she was pregnant, I left the theater group. And one of the boys in the theater group at 17 years old, they had put him the knee down and they shot him in his head.
Oh.
And when that happened, I realized that, you could use this theater for something so much more. Yes, it have the audience, but the audience is the end product. People that coming into your theater group, there's something that you could provide for them. And so it started attracting people from all walks of life, all different kind of people, And it wasn't easy, and it was disappointment after disappointment. The other play that I did after For Better For Worse was Romero and Julian. That was a musical, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had to get a dance choreographer. I had to get and gotten some groups from Best Village. Because I'd entered the play into Best Village, and I said, and Best Village had time it out, like you could only do 30 minutes or whatever the case. And I said, no, this play can't be done in 30 minutes. I'll write it and I'll do it, and I'll do it the way that I want it. And getting all those Best Village groups, because they always accustomed competing, it was very, very difficult to get them to work together, but we did. Wow. and we did have a great show. You know what I mean? And when I wanted to do the show again, because I'd actually wanted to do that show and I'd gotten an opportunity to perform in Antigua with the show, right? And we just didn't get the funds. I mean, and this wouldn't be the first time that would happen, you know what I mean? And for you to raise that amount of money, that's a lot of money if you're coming from scratch, you know? I mean, because there's a whole, we had gotten, the cast was big. The cast was like about 40 people, right?
Wow.
We have dancers and all that kind of stuff. And the government at the time had given us $15,000 to do it. I mean, that can't even buy plane tickets. You understand what I mean?
Right, I got you.
Kind of thing. You had to understand the background that you're coming from is a country that don't really respect the art. We don't respect anything. I mean, think about it. Look, Keyshawn Walcott, when he won the Olympics 6 months before, you know, he was on TV begging for a javelin, and that's who we are as a country. When he wins, everybody is on board. And I mean, and that comes from the style of government that we have and that kind of stuff. Where
Go ahead. I just wanted to find out if it is, so with all these obstacles, so to speak, in terms of funding or lack thereof, how in your spirit, and I guess you would have to be a bit abnormal in your approach, as Stephen, I just always tell you that you're not normal, right? But how in your spirit, what kept driving you to make it come together? Because anybody could say, boy, you see there's no money in there. Boy, you understand?
Well, you have a show, you have a show, so you have a product, you have something, so you done rehearsing, you done performing already, as then you have to do something with it. So you have all these people. And I mean, the thing with me, right, I was always open and honest with people. If we didn't raise the money, I let people know this is where we at. You know what I mean? And at that point in time, when we got the $15,000, I put the cast to sit down and say, listen, we can't go Antigua. This is the money that we have, right? I know I promised that, you know what I mean, this is what we wanted to do because you're working hard to raise the money on the back end. And this wouldn't be the last time this happened. Anyway, when we go in with the journey, we'll tell you. And I said, listen, let's do a show locally and let people see what we can do. You understand? And everybody agreed. So we did that show in Cascadia Hotel, and it was a great success. You know what I mean? It was a great success. All the other venues was that day. I remember, you know what I mean, for the first time, Synergy TV come in and find me, you know what I mean? And that was the first time that ever happened, you know what I mean? I was like, you know, and they was looking for the director and that kind of, and it just happened to be outside and that kind of stuff. And they took a little bit of the show. Yeah, and because there was so many cars lined up to go to the hotel, right? And that made me realize wherever there are eyes, there's money. So anytime that you have anything, you know what I mean, that is how people associate success. It's always with, you know what I mean, like so sometimes our artist would do a rhythm, and that rhythm will get absolutely forward when he launch it there. But let him launch it outside and it get popular outside, everybody think, look, Tunji had won so much things before. He ended up on Britain's Got Talent or whatever thing that he did, right? And all of a sudden he come back a superstar. But that's who we are. You understand? So you kind of have to understand the dynamic. You have to understand that is not Trinidad.
Sometimes I think it takes a little bit of we still growing as a nation, I guess, you know, in terms of mentality and approach and all that. And I think success, people want to be associated with success, but they don't often appreciate the behind the scenes or the backstory that
everybody wants to be a part of success. Nobody wants to be a part of struggle.
Right. So in that regard, now you, I guess, having to stick to your guns and knowing this is what had to be done, and going through the process. Sometimes, one of the hardest things for me is giving people bad news. That is almost painful for me, right? And you having to tell a cast of 40 plus people, listen, this is what's going on.
That's not the worst news I ever had to give here. Let me stop you right there. Let me tell you, we had gotten picked, right, to do the Toronto Fringe Festival, the first theatre group from the Caribbean to ever perform in the Toronto Fringe Festival. And I broke up the organization into two. So I had Theatre for Tots to Teens, and I had Steve Edwards Productions. And I entered. No, it don't ever happen. So no one company will do two, right? And we got selected for both. So I had two shows in the Toronto Fringe Festival. First time any Caribbean country ever gets selected for that in the history. Mm-hmm. Man, I went India because at that time they didn't get support for the Trinidad cricket team or some kind of thing, and Venky's, I don't know if you can remember that. Venky's had support. Mm-hmm. I went India, I went China. This is the first time I ever went international and local. There was never a place that I didn't turn, right? And when
this is what for funding?
For funding. It's not a place I didn't go, right? And we have so many banks here with, with Canadian roots, and nothing, right? The only persons who would have got what assisted at that time was Phoenix Gas Processors, right? Aaron, when I had to tell them people they're not going to Toronto again, that is by far one of the hardest things I have ever done in my life. Because I went and talked to everybody one-on-one as much as possible. And even when difficulties come in my life right now, in this part time in my life, as I always say, Stephen, if you could do Toronto, you could do this. Let me tell you how hard that was.
Wow.
That is, I mean, I can imagine. People cry and that kind of, because at this point in time, I'd push them people to the limit. Because now we're going internationally. So we're watching the way we talk. We're watching the stunts. It was David and Goliath. So we had a lot of stunts and that kind of stuff. We practicing in UWE on holidays. It was real work. And all that work went up in a puff of smoke. But then I look back now and I see, God was pulling me at a higher level. So now, when I have to do stuff, it is at an internationally high level. I could go and I am telling you, I could produce a show for Broadway. I went on Broadway to see it, what it is, So, and I went and see some of the industry best. I see Denzel Washington on Broadway,
right,
and come back home. I fall asleep in that show. Nobody ever come to any of my shows and fall asleep. I fall asleep in my show. Ask Americans, because I say probably the plays about something I don't understand. You understand? And I consider myself to be extremely intelligent. And they can't say. Wow. But it was Denzel Washington and people saying, you understand what I mean? And it's like, we down here don't understand how good we really are. And again, mentality of that what I'm saying is not just the people, but even for the government and administration is who we are. We don't understand. So when you see you get hardships in Trinidad and Tobago, because Trinidad and Tobago is a place that run like this, and like we just be real, right? It's a lot of who you know. So that way is listening and you see the same persons on ads over and over and over again. Whether the ad good, it annoying, it's frustrating, you listen to it. And you know that, you know what I mean? It's the same people that you'll see coming in your studio all the same time. It's not that those are the only voiceover artists. I listen to a Gil demo and I just direct voice for a living. The Gil demo is excellent. She get one ad to do and she never get an ad again because she ain't want to sleep with nobody. And like we be real, that is stuff that has happened in the industry. You understand?
So
you want to have us, you understand, to make sure that, listen, I am not compromising. I am not compromising. You understand? But at the same time, when it is you get that hardship, you just bring out a product that has been leaps and bounds on everybody else. Because you can't.
And that is it.
That is the thing. You take any of them comedy fest shows that we have down here and put it into an international arena. You know what I mean? I remember somebody telling me who used to perform in the comedy shows. You say, you know, them Americans and them, they bushy, so they don't laugh at the jokes. No, it's not that they bushy, because we laugh at a lot of the American comedians and them. They can't, things like our local politics and that kind of stuff have no bearing on their psyche. So they don't know what you're talking about. They can't relate it.
Right.
But there are universal themes like love, racism, and that kind of stuff that people understand. And that is what I always wrote on. So I always had an international outlet in mind, you know, what I want to do.
Angle,
Yeah, angle in how I would approach my work and how I would think. If no, look, just before the COVID, I was in Brooklyn, right? And I do Toko Tim, a character for the children product of what I do.
Yeah.
And I perform in the Brooklyn Library, right? Now, of course, it wasn't easy because it's not like how, you know, like how in Trinidad, right? We have a library. We have one library in town, and remember, if we're looking at it, we see in Brooklyn, that come like Arima, have about 5 libraries.
Right, I got you.
And you had to walk, I don't know the place, so I walking from one library to the next, and everybody turning me down and all kind of stuff. Again, you know what I mean? And these are generally run by Black people. One library is there, which was kind of like in the real ghetto, but run by a white man. You say, today all they have, you say, what you do, storytelling? I say, yeah, and that kind of stuff. And you say, all right, okay, well, today is Monday. We'll see if we could try and get you here on Wednesday. So I thought it was a mama guy thing, but I follow up. My job is to follow up. When I do follow up on the man, he put me on to somebody. I say, oh God, he brushing me off. The fella who come now, he say, hey, is this Toko Tim? I say, what? He say, yeah. He say, I went on your website and that kind of stuff, and I heard your song, Toko Tim, Toko Tim. And I was like, what? This man do all this research, this man.
Right.
Of course, when I reach there and I perform and I teach them about doubles and all kind of thing, the story that I do and that kind of stuff, people love me. Man, do something, put it all on the PR and thing. I was supposed to go back in June for reading, and well, the COVID stopped that. But I want to show you is you have to be able to create a product that is uniquely you, but could sell outside. You understand?
And what I got from that as well, in terms of, because we spoke, you'd have touched on a few things there, in terms of somebody lack of support that you might get in your own territory.
Yeah.
You know? But I think what you really hit on hardest is the resilience that it took for you to really get it in, because you said you beat the streets, you went to this library, that expert, you know?
Watch me, and them libraries not easy. It's not like the near part. When I realized how much I must walk about 12 miles that day. When I reach home, I just normally get up. When I in the States, I find it just be cold. So I just get up 2 hours every night to pee. Right. But that night, I sleep whole night. I didn't even realize, you understand, and the place cold. So you don't realize how much you're sweating and how much you understand? Whole night I sleep. You understand? And I dress up in hard shoes and kind of African shoes and them kind of thing, because I make a relationship. So I can't come there looking in, you know what I mean? And everybody taking in jersey and jeans, right? But your job is that you're right there now, you know what I mean? And how that whole thing even started was that I was supposed to go to New Jersey to do something for it's like an appreciation day or some kind of thing by another relative, and that didn't work out. I hear you hear
so now. Make it work.
Yes, you had to make it work. You had to make something happen. And that's what you can't afford to give up. So I did that, and I went on the street, the Brooklyn, I think it's 91.9, right? They have a radio program, and when in Brooklyn, all the West Indians do. And I did half of the interview as Steve Edwards, letting people know what I do, and then the other half as Toko Tim. You understand? And people again, you know what I mean? They were drawn to that. So you had to be able to take who you are. You know what I mean? I love Winston Duke, and I love what he has accomplished, you know what I mean, at a level. But when I listen to Winston Duke on interviews, it don't sound like me.
Right. There's a Tobago boy from Black Panther.
I'm an avid fan. But you see, I don't see, when I see Black Panther, even though, yes, it might be people with my same skin pigmentation, it's not me. It's not Trinidad and Tobago. Nobody buying doubles in Wakanda. You understand? And I want to see that. That's what I want to see. I want to see, you know what I mean, white people come and say, hey, doubles, what is that, the doubles? So I have a little thing on TikTok with Toko Tim looking for doubles in Manhattan, right? And the man asking Toko Tim, he say, doubles what? You know what I mean? But again, we have a culture that can affect the whole world. Trinidad is the only place that you will find a Christmas tree in a Diwali Nagar. You will go by somebody for Diwali, you'll go by somebody for Eid, somebody will come by you for Christmas. That is who we are. And that is something that is unique to us, but we don't understand that. So we never really take that and make a product with it. You understand? And that's...
So how... Yeah, I just want to figure out now, based on that, how much of a belief in self, because I think that is something that a lot of people lack, even as the mission for this first step program is to help stimulate something in whoever the listener might be, that belief in self, because when you're thinking, you know, we small island, so to speak, you know, what kind of impact the world we could really have on the world, you know? So that belief in self, sometimes you just figure, well, boy, me ain't good enough compared to the things you will see outside and that kind of thing. So that might hold you back in making that step. Knowing you, and you have interviewed with Steve Harvey, you've done LA, you've gone to Tyler Perry's new studio, I believe.
Yeah, I've visited. So I get trolled.
You've visited.
I get kicked out. Head of security, though. Wasn't there any other regular person? Was
head of security?
I get kicked out.
Oh, well, yeah. You was somewhere that you wasn't supposed to be.
No, actually, I was outside. But again, I'll tell you see, you talk about belief in self, and
yes,
it's not really. Stephen Edwards on himself can't do it. I don't believe in myself, but I believe that God's purpose in my life is so great that I'll give you a simple example. I had entered Toko Tim and the Turtles, right? I'd done a cartoon and I had entered a competition locally. Man, I close my eyes and say, you know what I mean, I win that competition. When they play the film in IMAX, everybody make noise. It was the first, and I mean, think about it. You're seeing a film on IMAX on the biggest screen in Trinidad. Was the only film that people really make any kind of real response to on it. When they call the winner, Arian and I prepared to get up. And when the man called the other fella name, I was in so much shock. I was in literal shock here. I was like, but I know my name. They pronounced my name wrong. That's what was going through my mind, because I couldn't believe I didn't win.
Right.
That's to tell you how much shock I was in. And me and my other partners are wrong. And it's like, how? And I remember getting so angry that night. Because in that same competition, I'd win People's Choice, right? I remember getting so angry that night. And I was like, I fed up, I can't take it. And me and my partners, when the guy, the animator who was here at the time,
Mm-hmm.
When we hear we want people's choice or whatever the case might be, there are three people that I'd always wanted to meet: Steve Harvey, Joel Osteen, and Tyler Perry, right? And I'd order tickets for the Steve Harvey show on just a whim. I say, but if you want to meet these people, you have to start making moves to meet them. You can't just want it and it be a wish. So I took the tickets, and our partner, the same animator, he started doing animation as Steve. He was doing a Dave Chappelle crossover or some kind of thing. And I say, you think you could do a Steve Harvey thing when I think like? He said, yeah. So he dropped Steve Harvey, and we started to lip sync it and that kind of. So I started putting I'd send the audio for you to do, right? I started pulling all the audio and that kind of stuff and bringing up a little story like.
Mm-hmm.
And right there and then, I felt it. God was like, you're going LA. I mean, the whole miracle of the place that we stay in LA, that was the only night that place had, right? That was free for the year. This was a little kind of apartment place, but they like the center everything in LA. You understand?
Right.
It's like a 10-minute drive to the studio. So that's to tell you how close that place was to the action. It was the only night that our place was free. We scrape up and buy the money. I have not a cent, Arian. I had not a cent. The next day, a friend called and said, listen, Gil, I get this opportunity to possibly go and meet Steve Harvey. Yeah, possibly. I wasn't sure. I had a ticket to go and think, right? But again, you had to know. So if I had gone and I didn't say anything, I didn't prepare anything, I'd just go to the show and the best come back and tell all they, well, you know what I mean? I went and I see Steve Harvey live.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Right.
But you went with the car.
Right.
When I get, she said, well, Steve, I can't think it. I will lend you the money. $5,000. That can't make me reach to LA. When we reached to Miami, my partner misquoted the price. So we were thinking of going to New York first, right? And we couldn't go to New York because we didn't have enough money. So here I am on a one-way ticket in Miami, right? We can't reach to New York. I have a sister in New York. I say, well, at least if I reach in New York, I'm taken care of, right? However,
right.
I told my sister, I said, this is what happened and that kind of stuff. She booked a ticket from Miami to LA. Now, this is our next week. So where I stayed in Miami for another, I have a good friend in Miami, and I call her. And this is a wrong Miami carnival. So every Trinidadian just go in that house and stay.
Up there.
So, right, she said, boy, there are real people in this house, I said, God. Anyway, she called me back and she said, Stephen, come, right? Because she birthday and all. She outside Lyman. Me and my partner go there and we finishing that Steve Harvey cartoon to go. When we leaving for LA, right? We ain't have no money. We reach. My sister buy the ticket and she didn't book for the bags, right? So we reached, and we can't carry the bags. Our partner called and said, listen, the Lord laid it on my heart to send some money for you. We reached it, so we could have booked the bags. When we reach in LA, we don't even have enough money to take our Uber to go to where we stay. And that's how I'm showing you.
But you're moving still.
But you're moving. You had to keep. Listen, your job is not to find out how, That's not your job. Your job is to move. When God say move, you move. When God said, this is what I bring you on this earth to do, you had to do that. You could only plan for so much. If you wait for everything that happened, that you plan everything up, nothing will happen because you're waiting for everything to put in place. Nothing ever will be in place. You had to move. And God is, in the Bible, they have a thing where there's crossing the river Jordan. And God say, only when the men step in the water, right, the water will part. That's your job. Your job is to step. If you ain't stepping, you ain't giving God nothing to work with. Nothing happened for you. Mm-hmm. So when we reach in there now, my partner say, he say, I leave it. It was on my heart to send you our next 100. We reached to the place. When I reached anything, I was getting instructions, and this is what I'm telling you now. It's not, you can't say, well, greatness isn't, no, it's not in me. It's not in me at all. I was getting instructions. Put the video on a tablet, right? Have your tablet out, right? Dress a certain way. So I dress up in a suit and them kind of thing.
Wow.
Arian, when I reached there and they eventually let us in, wherever Steve Harvey had to come out on stage was directly in front of me. The man say, Steve was talk with the audience and that kind of stuff. And God say, when he asked a question, if anybody have any questions, put up your hand. When he asked, I put up my hand one time, he asked the other woman a question, and I started to prepare myself now to take off the thing. Now you're supposed to put away all your devices, right? So when he do so and the thing went off, they started telling me, put it away, it's all right, put it away. And he said, somebody else started say me. So I tell him, and this is it, it's God, like he talking to me while it happening. God says, we present you with a gift. So I tell him, we did this animation in honor of you. So I say, well, if you watch, after the show, you can see it. He say, well, no, bring it, let me see now. And he watch it and he say, who do this? And I show my partner. He say, I wanted to do a cartoon for the longest while, right? And he say, I wasn't satisfied with any of the thing here. He say, well, I want to talk to you. Give me a business card and everything. Now I want to share something with your listeners and your viewers. And I will show you how life is, right? When we get our opportunity, right? Steve Harvey, now a year to the date, right? My partner who was on the mission and that kind of stuff, he just, as soon as the trip finished, because I pump at this time and now I psyched at this point in time. I come back home and I tell myself, all right, Trinidad, we're going and beat it, you understand? We're going and do things, you understand? Because I started looking at other markets. And
I remember you coming back and you were real pumped from that trip. I remember when you came to the studio.
And he just disappeared. He just stopped. A year to the date, Steve Harvey producing our cartoon now. And what I learned from that is don't put your future in other people's hands. And so today, I learning to draw and I learning to animate because I don't ever want to be in a position where I have an opportunity and I not be able to take advantage of it. You know what that contract would have mean for me, my family. You understand what I mean? Wow. But again, it's quality work. So you have to know again now, what you're going and do. It's so much things that you can't do on your own if you would allow yourself to stretch your ability. I never knew that you could learn to draw. I always thought drawing was something that you was born to do.
You're born with.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say, look, I start learning, and this is a free course that is available online. Level 1.
Oh, you want to share that link? Yeah, you share that link with me so
I'll send so we can share it to people. You understand? Mm-hmm. But I was showing you, in this time, even this time of things being rough, look, you start a podcast. You might have never started a podcast in that time, but you had to keep going. And you know what I mean? Remember the time when you tell me, well, I was just thinking about our podcast, and I say, boy, I just thinking about doing something. Look, we doing our Trini Bible stories now. You understand? Yes. But I used to tell you, I wish I could have tell people, well, you could do it on your own, you can believe in yourself, and that will be bullshit. You understand? Mm-hmm. Because for you to be thinking something and I to be thinking it at the same time, that is not coincidence. You and I dream the same dream. You understand? That is not coincidence. I remember that. I come in and telling you, Arian, look this studio, boy. You understand? That is God. Mm-hmm. And God has put certain place. How we meet, right, was because I had got a job for ways, right? And the other studio that I was couldn't do the job, but I had already do my voice work and everything and tell you people, and this is ways, this is a big company. You understand? Right. And then when I see you finishing an hour and give me the work a man was doing whole night to do, it was like, nah man, this one. And then we start to work together. But that's how God does operate. He's put kindred spirits together because you are a spirit for excellence. And I've always admired that with you. So I could trust you to say, all right, you can listen to this and tell me what you think. You understand? So it's not any, I don't work with any and everybody. I'm very, very select with the people that I'm working with because I really and truly consider myself to be, you know what I mean, at the point where I am the real deal. If you're on shit, you know what I mean, God, sorry, if your podcast.
Stay away.
Yeah, you
understand? That's right.
You understand? But don't come here and you're talking, Trinidad full of talkers. That's who we are. We just talk a big team. And then when you start to see what people produce, and you say, what? This is what they're doing? And some of them same people who will sit down and will tell you this and will tell you that and will tell you can't do it. Understand, especially for everybody who watching this, there's no interest in the people at the top to allow you to come up. There's no interest in it for them. So understand that people at the top of your industry, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, don't expect them to encourage you. Don't expect them to come up and say, you know what I mean, yeah, boy, you know what I mean? It's not everybody going to make room for you. That is a fallacy. So you have to understand that this is my purpose and this is what I was created for, and do it. Do it without stopping. Because in this COVID, it's rough. It's really, really rough. But watch how many creative things. You see the cream does always come to the top in the hard times. Watch out how many creative things will come out through this time of COVID. You'll see. You'll see, because this is where innovators and the creators and then the true innovators and creators that's how to start to work now.
They shine.
They will shine. They will shine.
I want to take it in a little direction in terms of you and the actual craft itself now. One of the things I think would be your strong point, and I forgot to mention in the start of the introduction as well, your ability to, your voiceover ability. You as a voiceover artist as well. But I think in all the things highlighted, I think the strongest thing for me personally is your art and your skill of storytelling and putting a story together, because you would have recorded quite a number of your stories, your original stories, and then your adaptations to like Bible stories and whatnot. But I always admired, because I love a story. I don't consider myself that great a storyteller. However, I think I'm exceptionally good at picking out a good story. And that is one of the strengths I think you have. There's a two-part question here. One, how critical it is for you to be able to express your story effectively, tell a good story. And two, where did this appreciation for storytelling and all of that come out from?
I make me smile, boy. I didn't used to live with my mother and my father when I was very young, as a child, like about 4 years. You know, my mother and father, when they started out in Lavantil. And my grandmother is a Spanish cocoa pile woman. So she came to visit my mother and in Lavantil. And, you know, she wasn't easy. And she saw this little boy eating foul manure. She said, oh, God. She said, they just be eating shit down here. That was she quote. And then she realized that the child that she see was her grandson. And she said, now Samuel, which is my grandfather's name, we can't leave him here. So she took me. And so I grew up with my grandmother. Now my grandfather, well, apparently I used to get a lot of trouble to sleep in the night, would tell me stories for me to sleep. And so he would tell me story night after night after, to the point where I couldn't sleep without a story. So one night, I remember, he missed out story night. And I say, Pa, you didn't tell me a story. He say, well, all right, I'll tell you 5 stories tomorrow. Well, as a child, you don't ever make a child a promise like that because
That they can't keep. Yeah.
he had to pay the piper. He had an accountant after every single one. And then with that now, he said, nah, I can't do this. He buy a big storybook for me and he said, look, it's a real stories and that read. And but I'd always loved stories. And then I remember my uncle had this friend named Lakey. And again, people can have a gift and you can have all the potential in the world. If you don't use it, you know what I mean, it goes to naught. Lakey's still alive, you know what I mean? And every time I see Lakey, I just tell him, I say, boy, I'm recording stories and things now, come. And Lakey will always tell me, yeah. You understand? But Lakey used to tell stories. And so when my uncle not there, I would be there and he'd say, hey, your uncle there? I say, no. I say, but I could tell a little story, And he would tell me stories to the point where my uncle will at time reach over and talk about hours. I'd always loved stories. And then I realized that, I developed a gift for it because as I tell you, I used to watch cultural sprang along. But when I really became a storyteller was when I became a father. And I would use stories to try to illustrate to my sons different things that I wanted to teach him, especially the first one, because he was always kind of Spanish looking and that kind of stuff. So when he was very young, people never thought that I was my son. If you see him now, there's no doubt because he have like my face, you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand? And I remember one day he went to school and the children were saying, well, I's an Indian and I's an African. And he said, well, Daddy, what am I? You understand? And I make up this story with this trout that fall in love with this barracuda. And at the night time I'd name it half-breed Joey. I later, some years after, I actually retitled it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and there's a storybook that I have even selling on Amazon today, But I created that story to illustrate certain points. And I never really knew it, but when I was young as well, I used to clean yard for people because I had to work and go to school because I didn't have money. And I'd always find a peace in cutting yard and that kind of stuff. And I would always watch how nature would do certain things. So I would always remember how, a caterpillar will turn into a butterfly and create different stories based on those kind of things. And that's how it started to develop, right? The ways in which I tell stories would evolve. So, so for better or for worse. What was unique about that play is that that play is two sets on one stage, but the people on one set don't ever interact with the other people on the other side. And the only thing that really drives that play is no action. It's two people having a conversation. And you sit down there watching just two people talking. That's what it is. You understand? But the ability to, to tell that story is one thing to have a good story, but knowing how to tell it, that's a different thing.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I learned that from seeing my grandfather, seeing my father, seeing Lakey, seeing Sprang Along, even seeing Super Blue perform, the way that he would do certain things, the way that he would carry a crowd. I always admire the way that he would be able to control a crowd. So actors are not performers. Actors are those persons. I could make you feel sad just by the way I drop my voice. I could make you feel certain things because the artist is the person who brings those words to life. You know what I mean? If I say something in French and you don't talk French, right, it means absolutely nothing to you. So I always tell people that what is written on a page means absolutely nothing. It's a translation of our message. So the translation of the message is just as important and even more important than the message. You understand? Because if I talk in French, you don't know, But you know if it is you know if a woman trying to seduce you in any language.
Yes.
You understand
Yes.
that? So the thing about it is that when you're doing storytelling, is having a powerful method of delivery and knowing, how to tell that story based upon, what your audience does. So storytelling for me it goes way, way, way back. And even like, I telling my grandmother she wasn't easy. A lot of what my grandmother would say, you would hear it in a lot of the ways that I would phrase certain things. So like,
because to this day say you sound like a old man.
Yeah. So my grandmother always used to say, cockroach are no right in foul party. So you'll always hear me say those things. But that is again how we can now translate what our old traditions and that kind of, because I am heavy on tradition. I love, if I'm doing a story, I love some of those things that were handed down. I might do plenty of those but those things are things that are quickly disappearing because there are nobody telling those stories, to pass it on. Because we've gone so much into TV now, you understand, that we forget that oral tradition of storytelling.
Yeah, it's true. And so in terms now of transitioning the telling of the story to actually not even telling the story, but conjuring up the story in your head, because the idea, it will always start with an idea, right? And then you decide in public to pen it out, or whatever your process is, if it's to audio record, I don't know exactly. And then deciding then to move these things into some tangible product, be it a play or a audio recording or whatever. Do you have a set goal when you start, as in you see the end product one time, or you just know this in here and you just need to get it out and the end product will be revealed to you?
That's a very good question. I never really thought of it. But I'll tell you this, all right, so it's more, there are two things that trigger storytelling for me: music and experience. So I'll give you a simple example, and for better or for worse, is what I was going through in my marriage right now, right? If I might be feeling down, or I might be feeling or feel happy, or whatever the case might be, and probably I wanted to show how just now, I see something happen there with the screen. Yeah, I want to show how that works. I want to express a particular way of how I feel. So with my son, I want to explain racism. I can't, or people not accepting you for who we are. I can't explain that to him as hard because at the time he's 5. So I could do it in a storytelling. You understand? If I want to express something to adults, yes, I might tell it in a story, but it's in a different way. So it's more just a matter of I might listen to a song, right, and say, "Ooh, that song make me feel a particular way," and I will do that song in a way such that listen, I go in and tell reword that song to tell a different message. So I might, there's a song with Buju Banton and John Legend, right?
Yes.
Which says "Walk On By," and when I listen to that song, I will see the woman in the bar. I will see here, and I will see that conversation. And now I might put that off in a movie because it's these different snippets of songs. So to tell you exactly what the process is not a process. For me, it's just how it works. Even when I'm writing now, one of the things that I'm particularly gifted in when I'm writing is dialogue. And it's almost like I would see that conversation and write it back to you. So it's almost like, it is at times when I just right now, because we in COVID, I real writing. So I write in Samson and Delilah, the play. I'm doing Romero and Julie, the film. I'm doing the podcast for the Trinity Bible, right? and are writing some other little children's stories. Mm-hmm. But when they are doing dialogue, it's like, this person will answer back, and this person, that to me is like, I don't know how to explain that. That is God's gift. So that me writing that down is almost like I am a witness to a conversation, and I am writing that conversation and telling it to you some way.
I got you. I got you. And all right, so while I'm watching, we'll try to wrap it up in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But it have a few things I really want to get out, especially now for the purpose of the podcast really would be, as I said, to inspire, motivate, and probably help with some tips in terms of what the individual who want to get to that stage or that next to realize the path then.
Okay, no problem.
So I decided to ask for, I guess, the beginner's playbook then. Mm-hmm. What would you advise anybody in any field? I guess you can speak to what you are now. Either IT, actually no, we'll stick to what we are, which is theater, the arts. You know?
Well, I just don't do theater, so I do everything now. Film.
Right. So you have online TikTok. You're killing TikTok right now. So what would, if you were to give them a playbook then?
Start.
Step one, start.
Right? Mm-hmm. There's too much information out there that is free. And there's just like a whole highway of information for you not to start. So if you don't know how to start, there's tons of resources right now to start. Don't be lazy, right? Start, you can't be lazy. It's a lot of hard work, right? Don't try to figure out how it is going to finish, right? Start is that is the number one thing. Don't be afraid. Mm-hmm. Because you're not created with fear. Fear is something that you learn, right? A baby don't understand danger. You understand what I mean? When you're born, he was never born with fear, right? He was never afraid of the lights when he was born. If a snake come in a baby crib, the baby don't fear the snake. You understand what I mean? Fear is something that you learn. So don't be afraid.
Quite right.
It's not a part of who you are. Right? So that's the thing. Start. The other thing is learn from people, but don't expect that. That is why I was kind of cringe when people like to say mentors. You have teachers, but your part will be different to every other person's part. Understand? Look, I didn't know plays and that kind of stuff could make a living for people until I came across Tyler Perry. But I can't use the Tyler Perry model in my life. You understand? So learn from everybody, but don't, as be very, very careful when people say, well, I'm mentor somebody like I'll emulate. No, you learn from everybody, right? But understand that your part is yours. Coming from the Caribbean, I have a totally different outlook on life than Tyler Perry would be coming from Atlanta. You understand what I mean? So it's not going to be the same part, right? And don't be afraid to chart your own path. Be very careful of the people you surround yourself by, even if it's family, right? Because you have to. The arts is a very insecure thing. You always will be second guessing yourself. And people don't even know this. I just feel nervous just to go to a rehearsal. You understand? Wow. I'm telling you, and people, and I'm the director. I was been nervous to just go to a rehearsal because I always say, boy, I wonder if God will take this gift today, boy. You understand? Because it's not me, right? So I don't ever take it for granted. I perform on stage over 200 times, and every single time, right, I just get nervous. I just have to take my ritual, shit and shower before I go every single time. And I've done it so many times. You understand what I mean? So the thing about it is that you will always have that nervousness, you'll always have that apprehension. You have to be very careful with the people that you surround yourself with. Because if they feed into that, right, you'll end up being paralyzed. And it's very, very important that you continue to go. The other thing is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You make mistakes, that's how you learn, right? Some things might be hard mistakes and expensive mistakes, right? Because I've had a lot of expensive mistakes, but
so have
I wouldn't be on this podcast, right, if I didn't make those mistakes, right? Because it was one mistake after another, and the higher you go, the bigger the mistake will be. But don't be afraid of it, because it's how you learn, it's how you get better. You know, understand the process. It wouldn't happen overnight. Right, that's the next thing. Understand the process. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, even for the way that you and I met, it was through, voiceover. I had just finished a voiceover class, right? An international voiceover course. And I have invested a lot in that. You understand? And I remember the first week when I didn't do too well, I was annoyed because I didn't understand it, but it took me reading every day. Every single day I was reading aloud. Every day I just do something with my voice. Every day I'm learning something a little bit. And I'm always learning. There are too many resources right now for you not to be always learning. I am continuously learning different things, different ways to tell stories, enhancing my craft, So understand that is a process and it wouldn't come overnight. You will watch some of the old things that you produce or watch some of the old things that you would have had and you, oh God, that was me, boy. Yeah, that was you then, right? But you can't get to the point where you're masterful at your craft if you're afraid to be shitty at it. You understand? So you had it, because I remember, telling my son at time, I say, he had done bad, and I think the teacher tell him that he insecure because of his storytelling, and he felt real bad. I say, much shit I write, I say I write it now professionally. Much shit I write. I say, so you had to get those bad ones out, because that's how you become good. You understand? You become good by being bad at some point in time. You don't be good at it. If you're going into any kind of think about it. If you have to trust your life for a pilot, would you prefer a pilot who never crash or a pilot who have gone through difficulties and survive?
The one who go through the difficulties and survive.
Exactly. You understand? Yeah. Because that person who never crash, you don't know how they will panic in that time.
If they're in a situation come up, yeah.
Because they never been experiencing it. You understand? So you had to get tough, right? The other thing is, understand that this is Trinidad. And if you're trying to, Trinidad have 1.3 million, right? The world is made up of billions of people. In America, right. In New York City alone, have more people in Trinidad. So whatever you do, don't do it for Trinidad and Tobago market, right? Always create a universal product that anybody and everybody will be able to think. And Trinidad is a bunch of bandwagoners, so they will hop on board eventually. But if you try to design it for Trinidad and Tobago, you're going to always end up in trouble. You're going to always end up in trouble. Look, you understand? So understand that, and understand that, even though, yes, you might be, now this here is from starting from scratch. If you have people and you're born into a network and power to you, I don't discriminate, you understand? But for starting from scratch entrepreneurs, right, that difficulty will just only make you better, right? I could stand up in front of any foreign audience to do anything that I do because, you understand, I work hard and I work in a situation where it's unfair. Look, I up to now, people have never heard my voice on an ad. I've never been chosen to do a local ad. But don't make that be what you value yourself as, right? I have nobody in Trinidad who do ways. You understand what I mean? So nobody else could say they do what I do. I am the voice of ways. You understand? So the thing about it is, yes, you might be a voice in Trinidad, but don't let that be the measuring stick that you value yourself by. Value who you are and what God created you to be. Right? And
I got you.
The last thing is understand what you're best at. Understand what you're best at and be creative in it. You understand? So, all right. I'll say this another way. Use what you have. You mightn't have millions of dollars, and people always feel that they have to have money. No, you don't have to always have money to do things. I understand money is important, but the money is to really acquire something. What it is you want to acquire with that money. And sometimes if you concentrate on getting that as opposed to getting the money, right? I'll give you a simple example. My sons and them, they was doing a basketball ring. So they take our old buckets and that kind of stuff. Poor fellas, like their father, they're not construction inclined at all, right? But because I see them knocking that bucket and that kind of stuff to make a ring, I say, boy, let me help out them boys. And so I call a partner. He say, all right, I could take a old bicycle rim and come and make it. Them boys and them play on it one day, they mash it up. So we decide to take some steel now and make a ring. There's our old building next to me there, but there's some construction steel. We make a ring and we put it up. The point I'm trying to make is what my sons and them had, they had a plastic bucket. What they end up with, a basketball ring. Use what you have. When you use what you have, it has encouraged God to give you other things, right? Right? And take advantage of the resources. We live in a time where there's so many. Move away from this kind of education as a factory mentality, right? There are so many online resources that are free right now. Take advantage of it. Look, I am, and I'm saying this now, I am offering a free voiceover course online, right? You can get my number 763-6603, right? And I'm doing this for free, right? If you want to get into the voiceover business, I will teach you certain things on how to narrate stories, how to do commercials and that kind of stuff, right? And it's free of charge. But you had to be the person that will be willing to take advantage of the opportunity. You had to take action. Yeah. So those are my tips.
That's beautiful. All right. Well, on that regard, actually, Stephen, I have one more question for you.
Sure.
And it's just to get a little insight into moving from. So this is your first step for the next 3 years, where you envision yourself now. So we could see it. We could kind of timeline it from today and say, all right, cool. So the brother actually was on this path and we see any process. So we see the start and we could probably see the finish in 3 years. Where you envision yourself, your business.
In 3 years, I'll be setting up a fully functioning studio. So, and it will do from animation to sound to videography and doing films and that kind of stuff. So it'll be a studio that if you want to do a film, you could come there and get a film done. We'll be able to supply actors, voiceover artists, everything. A one-stop shop for stuff in the Caribbean. For me personally, I will be learning to draw and animate, and I'll be able to animate on my own within the next 3 years. Because as I say, I would never give another person that kind of power for me to never take advantage of opportunities that come my way. Yeah,
I got you. Wow. Stephen, I want to thank you so much for making the time, brother. Hey, we had a little bit of a start to get this thing done, but it needed to happen.
That's how it is. Yeah. That's how it is.
You know? There you have it, folks. Stephen Edwards sharing many nuggets. We went deep in the gold mine and pull out nuggets, diamond, the works, you know? So out of this, take it from Stephen, take it from all the other listeners, all the other areas or people that you have heard from, but it's true. Start. That's like
you gotta make that first step. Start.
Yeah, start, and everything else will unfold as it needs to. So, Stephen, again, I want to thank you so much, brother. You know, again, you came through as you usually do, and I really appreciate making the time. You know, we'll talk further on all those other projects that we have in store. Have a good one.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
You're very welcome.